The regular meeting of the Village of Tinley Park Plan Commission for August 3rd, 2017. And we would begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we could roll call, please.
Croner,
Present.
Stanton, Curran, Engel,
Present.
Manning,
Present.
Gatto, Gray,
Here.
Lemonnier, Shaw.
Here, we have a quorum. Okay, so first item this evening would be communications. Do we have anything, Paula?
For communications, you have your folder. Did you give them the folder yet? The public, that's it.
Okay.
That's all.
One other thing, I did email out information about planning commission training at the state conference in Naperville in September.
Yes.
So if anyone's interested in attending, please check it out. So you can send us an email back and we can get you signed up. I believe we do have a limited budget, so if anyone would like to go, that is something that's budgeted.
Great. First come, first serve, I take it?
We'll
Sorry,
try to do
I'm-
our best to accommodate as many people as we can, but I have a limited budget, so.
All right. I'm trying very hard tonight in the spirit of our my favorite past commissioner, Ed Matushik. I'm going to try and keep it light and smile a lot. It's,
Yeah, there you
out
go.
of character.
All
But
right.
we'll see what we can do. All right. So first item we're going to work on tonight is approval of two sets of minutes. We'll start with the first one, the July 20th regular meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Excellent. Do we have any edits, corrections for these minutes? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes of the July 20th, 2017 regular meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next one would be the minutes of the joint session of the Zoning Board of Appeals and the Plan Commission held on July 13th, 2017. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Motion Croner, second?
Second.
Second. Who did I hear that from? Engel?
Yes.
All right. Any corrections on that one? Hearing none. All in favor of approving the July 13th, 2017 special meeting of Zoning Board of Appeals and Plan Commission, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Excellent. Okay, so the first item tonight is a public hearing for Innovative Decks, address 6926 183rd Street. Several sign variations. And we're having a public hearing. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
I motion.
Motion, Commissioner Manny. Second.
I second.
Second, Commissioner Gray. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, public hearing is open right now. I would like to add, I do have confirmation of the public notice here, and I'm going slightly out of order here. I'll back up, and I'd like to swear in the petitioner this evening, if you wouldn't mind. And also, do we have anybody else here, objectors and interested persons who intend to speak or testify during the public hearing? Okay. All right. Seeing none, can you raise your right hand, please? I swear that testimony. Do you swear that testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
Excellent. All right, so we can, I'm sorry,
Sit down.
yeah, I didn't mean to call you up to the stand there, just wanted to swear you in. Okay, so if there's nothing further, we can begin with the staff presentation.
Sure. Thank you, Chairman. Tonight, item number 1 on the agenda is variation requests for a freestanding sign at Innovative Decks. It's located at 6926 183rd Street, sort of near the Culvers, sort of between Sayre and Oak Park Avenue on 183rd Street. The requests we first heard at our last meeting during the workshop session. There are 3 variance requests, and in summary, they are for the location of the sign. The sign's currently located about 2.5 feet into the public right-of-way from the south property line, and also it is within the access drive. And the code requires 10 feet setback from both of those aspects, both the property line and the access drive. And the 3rd variance request is for the height of the sign. The sign was constructed at a height of about 12 feet, and 10 feet is the maximum. So there's several different aspects we want to look at tonight, but again, we did discuss this a little bit in our last meeting, so I'll try and brush over this lightly. We do have a couple new people in the audience tonight, though. So at our last meeting, we talked about how there may be able to be a compromise for the height of the sign if other aspects of the sign are, compromise for the location of the sign if the height and the landscaping at the base of the sign might be brought into compliance. Later in the PowerPoint and also in the staff report, I did a Photoshop image of what that might look like to bring the sign down to 10 feet, as well as add landscaping around the base. The petitioner may have more information about what he proposes to do during his presentation. Quick history on the sign. Again, we talked, here, let me go through these real quick. It's part of the Legacy District, and you can see this particular parcel is sort of the tooth that comes downward on 183rd Street on the bottom left side of the screen here. The properties adjacent to it on the east and west are not incorporated into the Village of Tinley Park, and so they would be within the Legacy District in the future should they incorporate, and they would also be subject to the same regulations. I did mention again that the regulations that they're varying from tonight are related to the location and the height of the sign. Again, 10 feet from property lines and access drives, and maximum height of 10 feet. And here's where you can see in the Legacy Code those provisions. This sign type is closest to number 14, which you see in yellow toward the bottom right side of the screen here. This signifies a permitted sign when you see it in yellow, and then when you flip to the next page in the code, you can see the actual regulations based on the types of the signs. So this was put in here for some informational purposes for the new commissioners, just to show you how the code corresponds to the variance requests. And it continues on the next page as well. And this is where you can see those location requirements. So again, here's our sign. The petitioner did erect this sign, and it dates back to as early as the 90s, and there's sort of some missing files per se in this particular case. We don't really have any sign permits that allow this particular sign, and these recent changes were not done with a permit. So we do require a sign permit anytime that you make a change to a sign, including electrical work, including face changes, which means this panel change here, if you add any new elements to the sign, if you change the base of the sign, any of those things trigger the need for a permit. And the village did notice that the sign was altered and did not have a permit, so this is why we're here today. We're trying to rectify the situation, and our goal is to end up with a legal sign of some sort, because we don't really have record of something here being legal. You can see in the staff report there's some history from different years, looking through the files for different signage, as well as some of the history where the petitioners had to receive approval from the Plan Commission for some other aspects of the property. Sorry if our screen is moving around up there too, but the TVs are shaking a little bit up here. Here's a photo of the site. You can see the building behind and the sign in front. It is within the Circle Drive, or the access drive in this case, and the petitioner has cited some of the reasons for needing the higher sign is in order to be able to see the sign over vehicles that park next to it. We've talked a little bit at the last meeting about whether or not the petitioner could have his employees park elsewhere on the site and not block the sign. There may be more discussion about that tonight as well, but that's one of the reasons he cited for needing the taller sign. And I found some pictures in the file of over time what the sign looked like. At the top of your screen, you'll see 1998. There was a sign there. I would like to also note that there's landscaping around the base of the sign. And you can see slowly over time that both the sign changes and the landscape area around the sign changes. The bottom picture is 2008. So the sign is mostly the same to what you see in 1998, 10 years before. However, they've added a changeable message board at the bottom, which is actually a prohibited sign. The current sign does have a changeable message board that will need to be removed to meet code. You can't vary from something that's prohibited, unfortunately. So that will need to be definitely altered as a part of whatever this sign will need to do to be in compliance. And then we did get a picture from Google Street View from October of 2016. So this was what the sign looked like most recently before staff noticed that the sign was altered. And you can see the current sign on the right side of the screen. You'll notice here the base of the sign went from being circular to rectangular. There's now not really a landscape area in between the middle of the sign for any sort of plantings. However, it appears as though it might be in a little better condition than the previous sign. So I think the petitioner was looking to make some improvements to the sign, and in the case of doing that, there was some alterations made that do not meet code. Really quick again, I wanted to mention the zoning of the property as well as the surrounding properties, because we always want to talk about the context and the impact of signs and variances on other properties. This is, again, part of the Legacy District. It's zoned neighborhood flex, and it is in what we consider the southern gateway into the downtown, which is 183rd and Oak Park Avenue. The surrounding properties around it, we have Culver's and the Convention Center to the west, that's B3, which is a business district. We have some residential a little bit north of the Culver's and other neighborhood flex properties to both the north and the east. And to the south across 183rd Street, we have residential townhomes. Here is an image displaying the dimensions of the sign. So here you can see what it might look like to have that sign move back to the 10-foot setback. It would actually go about where you see that car peeking out from behind the sign in order to meet code. Due to the unique layout of the site with the driveway and the access points, it might not be as feasible to move the sign back that far. However, we do note that the sign is within the right-of-way, about 2.5 feet there, as you can see on the screen. And we have discussed with Public Works on whether or not they would approve an encroachment waiver for the sign. They discussed that they would be able to approve that type of waiver. However, the petitioner would have to sign off on saying that if for some reason we ever needed to use that right-of-way to expand the street or put in sidewalks or do any other public improvements in the right-of-way, that the sign would have to be moved and it would not be at the village's cost. You can also see here that the height is 12 feet. And again, that was another variance that was requested for the sign. Thankfully, the panel on the sign is actually within code, so we're not talking about the panel specifically tonight. And there was lighting added as well to the top of the sign that does meet code. This picture again shows the manual message board, although there's no letters on it at this time, but that portion of the sign will have to be removed to meet code because it's prohibited. Here's another view of the sign and the location of the sign. And here is an image that I photoshopped that shows what the sign may look like if it was lowered to 10 feet. It basically encompasses taking out that manual message board and lowering the rest of the sign down to meet the current lattice work. And this is showing if he were to extend the base of the sign outward and make it into sort of a planter box. A more cost-effective option could be just placing planters at the base of the existing sign base, but we wanted to kind of make it all fit in nice here for this particular image. So That's one option that they consider, but the intent is to have 2 square feet of landscaping per every 1 square foot of sign face area. That's what the code calls for in section 9, which is the sign regulations. And so we want to see landscaping at the base. In this case, I think as long as the intent of that code is met and there is landscaping at the base, that may constitute something that's approvable by the way of the Plan Commission and the Village Board. If that's not something, we would have to consider a variance for the landscaping as well. Here's a comparison of the two. I tried to scale it appropriately, but it might not be perfect. And I think that's all I have in my slideshow. I did want to point out there are standards for a variation. Those 3 standards that we want to consider tonight on the record are that the property in question cannot yield a reasonable return if permitted to be used only under the conditions allowed by the regulation in the district in which it's located. Number 2, the plight of the owner is due to unique circumstances. And number 3, the variation, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the locality. And we've provided some draft findings in the staff report if you would like to use those or review those in your consideration. And one last thing, on the recommendation section in the staff report, we did note certain things that should be considered, such as the best location for the sign, whether it should be allowed to be in the public right-of-way, if it should be allowed to be taller than 10 feet, if landscaping should be added at the base, and if there should be some sort of compromise between height and location. And again, we provided this diagram for the Plan Commission and the petitioner to consider. And that's all I have for my presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
Excellent. Okay, thank you, Stephanie. At this time, the petitioner, would you like to give your presentation?
I am.
Thank you.
Well, once again, she's come up with really good photos. The Photoshop sign does look good, which gave me an idea. I mean, if all goes well, I mean, it could, I did pick up a few flowers just to show the possibility. Of course, it could be thickened up and the bricks could be framing it in. I'll let everybody see the possibility of that, the grasses, and that maybe could go on the tall part of the sign, and then the flowers. But, you know, they will grow, and, you know, the other main aspect of the sign is it is in the area where it's the most feasible place for anybody to park. It doesn't matter if it's the girls in my office or if it's customers. Today I had a customer when I got home from the job site. I was drenched, and I came here really quick because I got stuck in traffic and came right here. But there happened to be a customer, and you'll see the street is wet because this was just taken today, and it is exactly right at the base of that sign. And it happens all the time. SUVs are the most common cars out there. And you know, the thing about this whole situation is it makes me look like I'm a villain here because I modified a dangerous sign. The sign actually was dangerous. The glass panel was pretty close to falling out. I had a bungee strap around the sign to hold it until I had a little time to fix it. So we took the glass panels out very carefully. They were very delicate. And we, you know, if she goes back to the old sign, that old Innovative Deck sign is directly behind that sign. It's the exact, that sign over there on the right of that picture over there is behind that Innovative Deck sign, and it's the exact same size. And the posts are the same size. We didn't alter those. The only thing we did is reframed it, and we used the posts that were there. We didn't raise the height of those posts up at all. And more than 50% of my business is drive-by. We rely on the sign for our business. We're a seasonal business. We have to, you know, take advantage of our time, and we do. We work 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, because, you know, we're slow in the wintertime. And that's the only time I really had to work on that, and that's what we did. I'm willing to, you know, get rid of the signboard, but you know, as Stephanie pointed out, we could put flowers on the bottom, and that's going to grow up. Like if I have grasses or any taller flowers, they could creep up on that sign the way it is. So making it smaller, I think, is going to cheapen the look of it, and it's going to actually decrease the optimality of the, you know, the functionality of getting, you know, its purpose is to be visible. And 90% of the time, even in your Google pictures, it shows cars in front of that sign. During business hours, there's cars always in front of that sign. I mean, it's just a fact. So I'm hoping that if I take out the sign board, which was a good thing for all these years, and because I put a new face on that sign and maintained it, I'm losing all these attributes to the sign, which is a real bummer. But that's, you know, it's all in your hands. So the last thing here is, of course, when I annexed into this village, I always had a sign. So the sign's always been there. The village annexed me with that sign where it is. And there was no code at the time when those posts were concreted in that it had to be in 10 feet or whatever she's saying from the property line. And it was put in, those posts were put in and inspected at the time. And the driveway, if that sign was moved in at all, it would really hinder the traffic going around the sign and being able to safely pull out in either direction, because usually, someone, could be blocking. The cars normally have to park by the sign, and I spend a lot of money doing the driveway to keep cars from blocking the circle. So that's usually where everybody thinks to park, even like for not even being told. They just, for common sense, people park there because it's there, and it makes sense to not hinder the circle. So that's about it. That's all I have to say. I'm willing to put the flowers in front of it and get rid of the signboard. I'm hoping I don't have to take it down. The posts have been there, so why force someone to cut them when they've been there all this time, been grandfathered in that way? And as you can see, it just takes away from the sign. So that's about it. So that's it. At the mercy of the council, and I guess whatever you guys ultimately decide is your decision.
A couple of questions for you, if you don't mind.
Sure. Commissioner Cronin, one second. Just to clarify your last statement there.
Zamparelli?
Yes, I'm sorry. Zamparelli, am I saying that right?
Yeah,
All right, I appreciate that.
That's Italian, yes.
Your last point there about our decision on that, just to clarify, the purpose, our role in this is to recommend to the village board. So we're not ultimately making the decision. We're recommending to the village board whether or not to approve it. So
Okay.
just to make sure we're clear on the role of the Plan Commission there.
Okay.
So with that,
If I
Commissioner.
could just add to that, so it's clear too, the role of the plan commission is to work with the applicant to see if there's some spirit of compromise that makes it a more approvable project. And one of the things that hasn't really been talking about too much here, one of the biggest complaints of his is that cars are in the way of the sign. If he were to remove one of his curb cuts and not have a circle drive, and I understand that you don't want to back onto the property, you wouldn't have to. You could come in on the western access and have a 3-point turn and move out and provide a parking lot in the front area, and even move the sign and make it consistent with setbacks. So, what the commission and staff has been trying to do with you is try to help you with the existing condition and make it, as Stephanie has said, in the most approvable state as possible. And that's why I spoke to you about looking at height and working with staff and the commission about reducing the height.
I honestly, I mean, I'm not for that decision. That's ultimately going to be your guys' decision. And I'm hoping that, I mean, I'm sure everybody would agree that the thing looks good the way it is. And we did it took all day to do that sign. It's going to take me another day or two to tear it down and rebuild it. And, you're talking, a lot of work. And in my opinion, it's ruining the sign. It's taking away from the sign, and it's making it less efficient and less, optimum. But it's always been there. The post, I could see if I went out and didn't have a permit and concreted those taller posts in and went in and deviously did this. But I didn't. Those posts have been there. And you guys want me to, because I changed, so I fixed the sign because it was twisting and the glass was about ready to fall out.
And staff told you you needed to come, and you did not.
And I did come in here, and Stephanie knows I came in here to pull a permit because I wanted to get rid of that circle. And because I smashed into it with the Bobcat snowplow in it, and I knew that it hindered the parking area because it pushed people too far out into the traffic area. So I knew that I was thinking of rebuilding it, at the time it was smashed, and while I thought about it, I couldn't do it when it was freezing anyway. And then I came in here and I said, you know what, I think I'm going to get rid of that sign, because that circle there is a circle because the lights are aiming up at the sign. The electric has been there to light the sign. And then I had the idea, I was talking to Stephanie about getting an internally lit sign, and she knows that. And it was an LED, more efficient sign, and tired of those halogen bulbs burning out, and I just tired of the circle. So I thought the only solution was to get an internally lit sign, and then she says, well, you can't have the signboard, and I'm like, oh, that's a bummer. I like that signboard, but okay, that's a drawback. And then she said, it's got to be 10-foot setback. And I says, well, that's not an option. I can't do that. I said, I'm just going to fix what I got. So I thought it would be okay to fix the sign, make it safe again, and not go with a new sign. But as I was putting it back together, and the old sign right there was crumbling in my fingers because it was rotten. The actual sign on the left there was moldy. It was faded. You can barely even see it in that picture. It just faded out, and it had black mildew all over it. I'm like, I don't want to put that back in there. I cleaned the glass. I had my sign guy repaint me a new sign that you could see. And I just stuck that back in there. It's the exact same size. But, as you see, I guess you need a permit to
As she informed
repaint the...
you needed a permit, and you did it without a permit.
Well, I didn't think I was changing the overall concept of the sign. It was really pretty much the same post, same sign, same glass. Okay. Things need maintenance, and I really didn't think it was altering. I didn't think anybody would notice the fact that it was still the same sign. No concrete was put in. The same glass, same vinyl posts were still there. I mean, I wanted to avoid all this. I really didn't want to go through this. Unfortunately, things do need maintenance, and okay, so.
And I don't think anyone's arguing that we appreciate you maintaining your sign and your property and making improvements. It's just that it was done without a permit, and now we're here tonight to make sure that whatever gets approved is legally approved, and you've got a legal sign on your property. So that's our
Okay.
goal tonight, and I think everyone appreciates how nice you make things look.
Well, thank you for that. I try to make it look as good as possible. I would have wished more neighbors did the same thing. We all live in this village. The nicer it is, the better it is for all of us. But try to make my business look as respectable as possible. And the sign is one of the first images someone sees. And I changed the shingles on the gazebo. I try to keep that a fresh new look because it needed to be, matching the house and stuff like that. It's just, I really didn't want to. as you understand, we had the conversation in February. I says I cannot move that sign 10 feet in because it'll be blocking my driveway. I said it right there. I said that's not an option, Stephanie. I can't go that route. I'm going to have to keep my sign the way it is. As much as I would like an internally lit sign, I gave the guy a $1,000 deposit. So the only thing I could do was I said, you know what? There is something you could do for me. Since I gave you the $1,000 and you don't really want to refund it to me, can you just paint me a new sign? I mean, it's the same exact, so that's the only reason why this snowballed. Actually, I mean, if this really, really bothered anybody, I could go back home, I could take those glass panels out, and I'll expose that original faded, mildewy sign, and I'll leave it like that. And then we can all go home and forget this ever happened. I'll make it look exactly the way it was. It's all there.
Well,
Mr. Zamparelli, can I interject here a little
Yeah,
bit?
sure.
Rather than
Let's move on to Commissioner
Yeah,
questions.
let me just talk for a few minutes here, if I can, ask you some questions. You've owned a business since 1989.
Yes.
How many times have you redone your sign? Approximately.
I would say at least 3 times.
And each time you pulled the proper permits, with the exception of this one?
Yeah, the last time I did it was in 2008, and there was a permit for that. That was the last time I redid it. Now, before that, I was in Cook County, which I had to deal with the highway department, and it was kind of complicated. But if I had changed out, I believe I changed the posts back in the day, one time. I mean,
Okay.
she refreshed my memory. I mean, we're going back a long time. I believe that she pulled out the 3 different signs I had. I mean, didn't you?
The permit that I have from 2008 depicts a sign that's triangular, where you must have added a post, so the sign was shaped like this, rather than just perpendicular to the street. And that sign obviously does not exist today, so you didn't construct a sign per what the permit was approved. That's the only actual sign permit I have.
Constructed and took it down.
Yeah.
Hold
So-
on. I was going to pull a permit for that sign, but I decided not to go through with that sign. You can pull up all the Google pictures you want. That sign never was erected.
That's the only one I have a permit for. So.
No, this sign here was the one that got done.
Okay.
I went through the highway department one time, and then I was going, I mean,
I don't
I
have
don't know.
records of anything that's been approved, and I think that the point that we're trying to make is that you need a permit to do changes to a sign, and hopefully in the future, you will make sure to check if you need a permit
okay.
before you alter the
Well,
sign.
okay.
Mr. Zamparelli, we appreciate the business. You're well respected in the town, and we really do appreciate that. I agree with you 100%. Being in sales and marketing, your sign says everything for you. I think this is a nice sign. I'm going to make a couple statements. I'm going to ask you a couple questions. I myself don't have a problem with giving you the variations, the 10-foot variations, 2 of the 3. I do have an issue, though, with the height.
The height.
I just think that I have an issue or giving special consideration for any business, especially in the Legacy District, where we're trying to maintain a very strict set of standards for the sign. Being business friendly, but at the same time, making sure that everybody falls within the same parameters of each other. Those are just statements there. Now, my question, if we pass a motion, and whether it's to give you the variances that you're requesting, or some of them, or none of them, we'd have to give you some of them, would you agree to add the landscaping that staff requests within 30 days of approval by the village of your variances?
Yeah, I'd be willing to do that,
Okay.
sure.
Would you also agree that the manual changeable copy would be removed from the sign within 30 days of the village granting you the variances?
Yeah, all this stuff being done within 30 days when I'm 3 months behind with my jobs is a little bit of a hardship. I would appreciate a little bit
What would you like?
more time,
45
like
days?
60 days.
60 days? Okay,
You
60
know,
days.
'cause-
One other question. You would also agree to sign the Public Works public encroachment document, whatever that document is, within the 60 days of being granted the variance?
Yes, I'd surely
Variances.
sign that.
Okay.
But my only
Yes, sir.
question to you is because those posts were that height this whole time. That's not a consideration to you, because
Yeah, well, I would disagree with you, because if you look, you've got some added decorations on top of those posts. I mean, we
Yeah.
talked about it at the workshop last meeting. So you've added 6 to 8 inches just in that alone. So I hear you, and I'm not saying,
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying, but
yeah.
we're going to have to fall within the standards of the village.
Okay.
In my opinion, I don't want to speak for anyone else.
Okay.
Strictly my opinion here. I think
All
the
right.
sign is an outstanding sign. I don't want you to go back and pull that off and put up the mildew sign. I think that's counterproductive to your business, counterproductive to the village of Tinley Park as well. We're trying to work together out here and trying to find a solution that works for everybody. So I
Okay.
appreciate your answers, and
All
thank
right,
you.
thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Croner. Just to emphasize the point there, kind of what you're saying there, and what Paula mentioned earlier is, again, trying to find the most workable and approvable solution here in spirit of compromise. We talked about it at the workshop, and we're still working on that here. So, moving down on this side, any questions from the Commissioner?
No questions, no comments.
Okay. Down in the far end here?
Yes, I do have a comment, Mr. Zamparelli. Just based on the initial application that was that you filled out back in '94, you mentioned that you had an issue with the county when it was still Cook. Back then, you did receive a letter from IDOT indicating that you're erecting a sign and it's on the right of way. My question for you is, can you clarify where was a disconnect? Because I know that letter from IDOT was also sent to the village, to Mr. Ray Fessler, and I guess
Yeah.
there was communication between you and him, and
Well,
it was indicated that, move the post and put it on your private property, get it out of the right of way. I want to know, what happened at that point, Was your sign already erected and you just didn't move it, or was it moved? or?
that was probably the instance where we actually pulled those 2 posts out and put the bigger posts in, because when we put those original cedar posts in, they were a little bit rotten, so no sense in putting the same posts back in the ground. So that was probably the time that we actually put the 6x6s in, because you'll see that there was originally cedar posts concreted in. And
Right, but
Ray
then-
Fessler has been out to my property many times, and, he was aware of it. So was John Dobner and even Don McNeely. So they were always at my place, looking at things and inspecting things. So they were all
then-
good with it.
So then, since that letter from IDOT notifying you that that sign or one post is in the right of way, you just, like you mentioned.
They signed off on it,
So
and
they
I had to
signed-
pay some fees, okay, but.
So who signed off? You're saying that the village signed off, said it's fine?
Yeah, because that was right around the time that I was annexing the village, and that kind of ironed it all out, too. So,
Because that's the only thing that I'm concerned of, that, we all, like my home, we all have property lines, and something that's, definite, set in stone, it's not there in real life, but it's there, right? But, you built outside of that property line, land you don't own, it's not within your boundary of your land. So, that's my only concern, that do I feel comfortable, approving, your variations, and then what does that message leave to the rest of the citizens of Tinley Park, that I could build something that's not on property that's mine, and then, so I think, like, I don't want to be caught, or the village be caught in something that could happen, and impact the village negatively.
most of the amount of the stuff in question is the base that I added after the posts were already concreted in. That thing didn't always have, that sign in the previous pictures never had a circle around it or a base. That's what's adding to the issue mostly, is that thing sticks out more than half of the, but it's landscape,
Right, well, I think like how the signs before, I think like the landscaping, the retaining wall, I think you had something, it's not the sign that was, over the property line. But now that based on on the packet, now your sign, I mean, not only the base, but then the sign itself is now, 30 inches, so again, it's like, your property and then, city property, village property. So I just wanted to know, just, so what happened at that point? But you said the village signed off on it, so.
Yeah, and I would be willing to sign off on it if it's ever affecting anybody. I know that all the utilities are probably 10 feet past the sign out in the easement. That's a huge easement between the sign and the street.
Right. I know it doesn't affect anybody, but I'm thinking just the fact that, someone's building outside the property, that's the issue that I'm concerned with. Being a business owner or someone, a residential, they did the same thing, then, we want to set a precedent, then, what's going to happen? I mean, that was my question and comment, regarding the abbreviation request.
Okay. Thank you, Eddie. Did you have any more on that, or?
Yeah, can you-
that
No,
was
no,
your one?
I'm-
Okay.
Can you go
Down
back
here.
to the old sign and the new sign, side to side? So this sign on the left was here at least October 2016. And that's the same posts as
Yep.
the current sign. So, I mean, based on this, it looks like your sign is significantly lower on the one on the left. And how long was that sign there for?
That thing was there for a decade, just
Okay.
exactly like that. But
So that.
see, that's 2008. That's about the time, we changed it to those other the vinyl posts, because that was the age of vinyl was starting to be more prevalent, and those cedar posts rotted out. So, let's see. So
back to the other-
the sign that you're saying
So on
looks
the
lower,
left-
but those posts are still there. You see the posts, how tall they are?
Correct. But
So-
that sign was like that for a decade, and it didn't negatively impact your business in terms of the height of the actual sign, correct?
Well, that was the reason why we thought of raising it, because everyone's always parking in front of it. So who knows how much business was lost or passed by because of the sign being blocked. But I mean, I just think it doesn't. It just, to me, it just didn't make sense to have. That's my designated parking. That is where I like, either it's a customer or if it's the people that work for me park in there. Everybody knows that I designed it that way to keep the cars from blocking the circle, which is so important. Because if people start blocking it, and then you start getting into people backing up on the 183rd Street, which is hard enough to get out when you're pulling forward. And I have big trucks too, so my big trucks take a lot more space to turn, especially when I got a trailer to get around that circle in. And I believe one of those 6x6s was hit by the trailer, and that's why I had to, that was probably one of the reasons why the cedar post 6x6s went. And that one ended up getting, modified or changed. But
Okay, thank you.
that's it.
Okay, any more questions from the commission? Okay, so I have just a couple of points here to run through. And from the staff report, it's correct, the property was annexed into the village in 1994?
93, 94, I think that was about it.
Okay. So in looking at the 1998 sign, the point that I think that's the earliest photo we have of it, and earliest permit as well?
I believe so.
Okay. So
Well,
approximately the 1998 photo, is that the,
1994 is the earliest permit, sorry.
okay,
That's the one that-
1994.
With the letter that said it was in the right of way.
I
And then the
understand.
next permit was 2008.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
No. I appreciate the clarification. The point I'm getting at is the photo from 1998, effectively, is that the sign, that's the one on the top, is that the sign that was
have-
effectively there when it was annexed into the
It's-
village?
Yeah, and
Okay.
it's still the one that's behind the sign now.
Okay, so, well, when I say sign, I don't just mean the sign face. I'm talking about the entirety of the structure.
Yeah,
Okay? So that's,
yeah.
yeah, and so if I understand the chronology of what you described here over the years of the maintenance, it sounds to me through today, every piece of that entire structure has been replaced since the time it was built. So effectively, 100% of it has been replaced up until now. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, basically from 2008, from that point on. I mean, the 2008 permit, I believe, was changing that one to the current post that it is. Because
Okay.
we don't know exactly what time of the year that picture was taken, because that was a pretty early sign. As you can see, the gazebo in the background was vinyl, and that's about when I started converting all my stuff to vinyl.
Okay. Yeah, and to be clear, I'm just trying to get some general understanding. I'm not trying to get into, the forensics of, what day or month. I'm
Yeah.
trying to get a general understanding.
Yeah.
When you make the statement that the sign has always been there,
Those two holes, I've never
there
really had
has
to
been a
dig 'em.
sign there, but it
has.
sounds as though since at least 1998, every element of the sign of the entire structure has been replaced over time. So prior to or sometime after 2008, the bottom photo, the pavers were redone. Somewhere
Yeah.
between then and
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
And in the 2008 photo and prior, is it fair to say you wouldn't have had the issue of a car parking in front of there and blocking the sign?
Well, that
Because
was
you
why
didn't
we
have
realized
parking.
we had to expand it, because people kept bottling up the driveway. Very frustrating.
No, I understand the need. I'm just
Yeah.
trying to establish the details and understand what led up to where we're at today with your request.
Well, what led up till today was the fact that I smashed into that circular thing and had to redo the base of that circular thing. That's pretty much what got the ball rolling.
No, I understand. But as of the 2008 photo, there was, it wasn't possible for someone to park in front of the sign and block it because there was no
No,
parking.
they would just block the driveway.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so I understand
Yeah.
that. With respect, following up on what Commissioner Croner stated, and I didn't actually hear any of the other commissioners kind of chime in on this, and once we get through all the findings, facts, I'll try and see if we can gain consensus here. We have 3 variations that are being requested.
Yeah.
As Commissioner Croner stated, 2 of them are variances related to the setback. And I would echo his sentiment as far as leaning in favor of recommending approval on those variances.
Appreciate it.
For all of the reasons that have been stated. And also, again, emphasizing in the spirit of finding a workable solution, something that we can recommend and the village board can approve.
Thank you.
With respect to the first variance request, the height, I want to hone in on the most recent repairs that you did after the circle was damaged. Commissioner Croner pointed out that it was much lower prior to that point, right? And it's understandable, it was blocked, and
Yeah.
so you wanted to raise it.
Exactly, because we put the parking in front of it.
Right. So I want to be clear. Prior to that point, the only variance that you would have needed at that point are the 2 setback variances. Because the height, at least as far as we can tell, fell within the height requirements. Is that a fair statement, as far as we can tell?
It appears to be
Right.
less than 10 feet in comparison to the
Without deconstructing it, but
I can't travel in time.
exactly. So my point is that prior to this last rebuild of it, which I would say is very attractive, okay? We'll all, I think, agree to that point. But prior to that, the only variance that you would have had to request would have been the setbacks. And it sounds like...
Yeah, well, when I annexed into the village, they said, yeah, I'm a commercial property now, and I could build right to the property line. And that's why I put that thing I thought was on the property line. And
Okay.
And that was back-
And I understand your point on that. You know, as Commissioner Manny stated, you know, your building over the property line, you know,
Was an
whether it's a
afterthought.
misunderstanding, you know, it's still a fact that it's over the line.
yeah.
What I'm trying to get to in honing in on the last maintenance and adjustment that you did, prior to that, you would have only needed the 2 variances, which it seems we're leaning towards that. To my mind, that strips us out, and when we get to that point, I'd like to hone in on the variance for the height, because that seems to me to be something that we're going to need to consider potentially when we get to that point. We may want to consider discussing that as a separate, stripping that out as a separate motion. I'll ask you the same question that I asked in the workshop last week. With the additional requirements that you stipulated to, that Commissioner Croner mentioned about the landscaping, removing the prohibited changeable sign, and entering into an agreement with Public Works on the right-of-way, the only question is the variance on the height. And in the spirit of compromise, is that something that you're willing to compromise on? Stephanie kind of mocked up a reasonable approximation of what that might look like. So before we
Yeah,
move
I mean,
to close the public hearing, I'd like to get...
honestly, Ken, I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes in the village or be defiant. I would have preferred it to be taller, and it's already done, and the posts have been there for all these years. I just didn't think that it was that big of a problem, since I didn't just recently go concreting them in. But if it bothers, you know, everybody, and it's that bad of a violation, you know, I guess we'll have to, you know, cut them down if that's the findings. I'm not happy about it, but of course, I don't think I have a choice in the matter if that's where we're going with this. So that's pretty
Okay.
much what I have to do.
What I'm trying to hone in on is your...
Am I happy about it? No, but I'm willing to do it. You know, I just figured that it certainly
Okay.
doesn't hurt to ask to keep it the way it is.
Yep, I understand that. So if there are no other questions from the commission, there is one other point here. In the handwritten findings of fact submitted with his application, there are a couple of points in there, and I'm not going to track through them one by one, but based on the information that we've pulled out in the public hearing tonight, some of those I don't believe are factual. And so when we get to that point, I want to make sure that we don't blanket accept the findings of fact as submitted by the applicant. So procedurally, if we need to spell those
He
out.
always has a right to submit them.
Yes.
But you don't have to accept his findings.
Yes, and that's the point I'm getting to.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions on that point from the commissioners? Okay. So I appreciate your presentation and your discussion with us. The next item on here would be questions from the public for the petitioner. Are there any? We didn't have anybody sworn in. So hearing none, again, the next item on here in the public hearing would be objectors. We did not have any objectors. We haven't had anybody come in, it doesn't look like.
Good.
Okay,
That's a good
so,
thing.
The last point on here, and I apologize for being so procedural here, is that petitioner rebuttal. So this is your opportunity to the point that you have final statements that you'd like to make.
Well, my final statements, would be that the sign is existing the way it is. It hasn't been purposely concreted in there recently underneath these recent repairs. Okay, it was been existing that height, that way for over a decade. So if, because I altered it and I feel like I'm being penalized because I'm losing the signboard, and I just try to, maintain my property, that, to go through a brand new permit when you have an existing sign, I think is kind of extreme. But, it is what it is, and if that's the procedure, that's the procedure, and I'm here to come back into compliance with the regulations of the town. But as a resident of this town, we focus a lot on little things like this. I mean, a sign, in my opinion, should be a little more free to a business to express itself. I mean, look at all the different variations of signs out there. You got signs along the interstate that are huge. You got signs of banquet halls, like the old Condesa Del Mar sign. Boom, wow, they're a grand place. It's like the bigger the sign, the better look, the better the image of the business. You guys are passing these ordinances with these little cheesy little signs that just make us look like a cheesy little town, in my opinion. And now I'm being, told to reduce my sign, to reduce its functionality, and it just hurting my business, and it's costing me more money and more time, which I have very little of. Got rained down 3 times today, refunded someone's deposit yesterday, and trying to keep up. But, we're here and we're doing this, and we're going to try to get to the sign amongst all of our other jobs to do. But, we do have to make hay while the sun shines in 3 good months, build 100 jobs to survive and stuff like that. But the town, we're focused on little things like this one. The town doesn't have no sidewalks, I mean, I walk my dogs every day. I got to walk through ditches and mud and weeds and stickers there's people that don't mow their grass. There's a school behind me where the kids most of them walk to school, and they walk down a sidewalk that drops them in a ditch. Okay,
I'll tell you what, I appreciate your comments on many of those things. And I will tell you, you brought up a couple of hot topics for me personally, which are a little off topic here.
Yeah.
But I would agree with quite a few of the items you brought up there. Anything else?
To my sign?
Okay.
No.
All right.
No,
Feel free to let
I'm
the board know
done.
for
So
other-
whatever you guys decide, just give me 60 days, and we'll try to take care of it in the time you allot us. And, we're willing to not bite anybody. I don't want to, cause any problems. So whatever you decide, just send me a notice of what we got to do. All right?
Okay, I appreciate your time here this evening, and again, I do want to emphasize a popular business, a well-known business in town, and from my part, I certainly appreciated.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that.
Keeping businesses here in town. At that, I would like to entertain a motion from the commission to either close or continue the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing?
Motion, Commissioner Croner. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Gray. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The public hearing is now closed. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so moving on with this matter, I would like to, if necessary, poll the commission and get kind of a consensus. My thought on the 3 variations in front of us, I would look to potentially strip out variation request number 1, run it through with the commission and separately, and see where we stand. Because it is something that's been formally requested, I believe we do need to act upon it.
I'm ready to put a motion forward just like that If we're in agreement, general agreement, consensus? All right, with
So-
that, then I'll go ahead and make a motion here.
For number one, standalone.
No, I'm going to just erase it and include the two 10-foot variations. I'd like to make a motion as follows. I would strip out number one, but apply 2 and 3. My motion would be to...
One moment, Pete. Paula, just for clarity here, the,
I know he just walked out, she went to go grab.
I don't think he understood the process,
yeah,
is what happened.
so the first variation, these are all requests, I
You can
believe.
separate the motions.
Right, I know we can separate them. We have to address each one of them, though, right?
Well, that you can group the last two.
No, what I'm saying is we can't, we have to say yes or no on the first one.
Yes.
So are you saying you're looking to make a motion on
I'm
the
look-
second and third?
That's
We'd have to
correct.
come back to the first.
No, well, sure, we can come back to the first.
Okay.
Let me make a motion here. I'll make a motion to grant the petitioner, Ken Zamparelli, on behalf of Innovative Decks, the following variations for a ground sign at 6926 183rd Street in the Neighborhood Flex zoning district. The first variation be a 10-foot variation from section 12.4.E point of the zoning ordinance to allow for the ground sign where the required setback for a ground sign is 10 feet from the property line, and number 2, a 10-foot variation from section 12.4.E point of the zoning ordinance to allow for a ground sign where the required setback for a ground sign is 10 feet from the access drive. These variations would allow the petitioner to keep the sign in the current location as it is installed. The sign, however, can be no higher than 10 feet tall, with a sign face area of 30.5 square feet, is located 2 feet 6 inches into the public right-of-way. With the following conditions on this motion: that landscaping is added to the base of the sign within 60 days of the approval by the village board. Condition number 2, that the manual changeable copy must be removed within 60 days of approval by the village board. And number 3, owner would need to sign the public encroachment document as put forth by the Public Works Department of the Village of Tinley Park within 60 days of approval by the village board.
Excellent. We have a motion. Do I have a second on Commissioner Croner's motion?
Second.
Point of clarification, though. So in the way that you read that, you were already making a commitment to the 10-foot height. And so what you're kind of in essence doing, and we kind of touched about this in our last group, you've kind of taken away the right of another commissioner that may not necessarily agree.
I will take out the nomenclature regarding can be no higher than 10 foot this
Okay.
tall. The sign has a face area of 30.5 square feet, is located 2 feet 6 inches into the public right-of-way, period.
Excellent. Thank you for the clarification, and hopefully we got the exact language of there. So the revised motion, do I have a second?
I second the revised motion.
Excellent. Do we have any questions? So we have a motion on the table. Do we have any questions as to what the motion is on the table? We're all clear on that?
Yes.
Understood? Okay. So can we get a roll call on the motion?
Gray,
I approve the motion.
Yea or nay?
Or Garrett, right, yes, yay.
Manny,
I want to say I do not approve the motion, just based on, being in the right of way.
So, yay.
Okay. So that's a nay.
Engel,
Yay.
Croner,
Yay.
Shaw.
Yay. And motion carries. So what we have there is a recommendation from the commission on variations 2 and 3 to the board to approve that. So at this point,
If I could make just a recommendation, just because we have this as a protocol, is to make this motion in the affirmative.
in the affirmative.
And then, just to get it on the table, and it can be voted up or down. For some of the new members, you might have a hesitancy to make a motion towards something that you may not be in support of. But just as a policy and a protocol, we always make our motions in the affirmative so that there's a consistent way of voting on them.
But understand, you do not have to make it in a motion in a positive
Yes.
if you choose not to. And you can fail to make a motion as well, or fail to second motion.
You're absolutely correct.
Yes.
It could fail just because no second.
Right.
Okay, so point of clarification on that, our standard protocol and procedure is that we make motions in the affirmative. That is not an absolute requirement.
And it doesn't reflect the person making the motion
Yes.
that they're in favor or not in favor of the motion.
You can absolutely vote against your own motion.
Yes, you do.
All right. So, with that being said, I'd like to entertain a motion from the commission with respect to variation request number 1. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion. Make a motion to grant petitioner Ken Zamparelli on behalf of Innovative Decks the following variation for a ground sign at 6926 183rd Street in the neighborhood flex zoning district, a 2-foot variation from section 12.4.e of the zoning ordinance to allow a 12-foot tall ground sign where 10 foot is the maximum allowable height.
Okay. And I believe that motion is adequate. Do we have a second for the motion? Okay, I will second the motion myself so that we can vote on it. We have a motion on the table. Roll call, please.
Do you want to make it clear like you did last time what they're voting for? Just-
Yes. All right. Thank you, Paula. All right. Just to be clear, we are voting on a motion to approve the height variation request. So a yay vote would mean you approve it. A nay vote means you're voting against it. Roll call, please.
Croner,
No.
Engel,
Nay.
Manny,
No.
Gray,
Nay.
Shaw.
Nay. Motion fails. Okay. So, once again, I thank you for your time and all the effort you put in this and working so closely with staff. And the recommended variations will go before the board. Do we have an approximate date for that yet?
The 15th.
The 15th. Okay. And you'll be getting notice on that.
Okay, all right, I guess that concludes my part of this.
Thank you very much for your time.
Was Lucas actually in favor of my sign being 12 foot? Sounded to me like he was the only one that was for it.
No,
Against-
I realize it's, it's complex.
Okay, well, I appreciate that, but thank you.
All right.
They all voted no. There was no one in
I
support.
thought him making that statement, I thought he was, okay, I'm just trying to,
Yeah,
but I know it's failed, but I thought he actually was.
No, if you were hearing, as part of our protocol, we always make our motions in the affirmative.
Oh, got it, okay.
and then we vote on it. That last motion failed 0-4.
Okay, well, 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
All right.
Thank you for your time.
I appreciate that spirit. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay,
Actually,
so the next item on this evening's agenda is item number 2, which, if I can get back to my agenda here, is for M Block, which would be a minor exception, I believe. There's page 1 here. Okay, so item number 2, M Block and Sons, Inc., 18800 Oak Park Avenue, site plan approval, minor deviation from the Tinley Park Corporate Center First Industrial Planned Unit Development and exception from the zoning ordinance. It's our gentlemen who've been waiting patiently for us here. I appreciate it. I appreciate you sitting here with us. So just to set the table here for the entire commission, it is possible for us to resolve and approve and move on site plan approval this evening in a single meeting. So if there are no questions at this point, we'll commence with the staff report.
Great. All right. Thank you, Chairman. Item number 2, and as Chairman Shaw mentioned, thank you for your patience during the first part of the meeting here. We have M Block, and we also have Jeff, I'm not, Mushalevich. So is that close? Okay. Sorry. From Peak Construction, who is working on the project with M Block. We have Bob Reynolds here representing M Block tonight, and they are here to petition for site plan approval, a minor deviation, and an exception. And it's all based on needs for security improvements for the building. And this is located at 18801 Oak Park Avenue. It's just south of I-80 and east of Oak Park Avenue and north of Prosperi Drive. More familiar, it's just to the east of Carmex and north of the amphitheater if you want some location points there. They are in need of some improvements to make sure that their business operations are conducted in a more safe manner, and I think they've had some past troubles with security, so this will definitely help them in making sure they can run business operations very smoothly. Here are some photos of the site. They've been at this particular site since 2012, I believe. And the building itself is close to 1 million square feet. We're coming in at 915,000 square feet. And they've had some issues with theft in the past. I did talk to the police department about what sort of history they were able to find. And there were at least 8 cases between now and 2014. I believe you have your own security at the property currently in
We have
some capacity?
The security staff inside, and I don't think that's your responsibility, but they do multiple other job duties as well.
Okay. So in addition to having some security personnel, this would be physical improvements to the site that would enhance that service. And what they're proposing to do, I'm getting a little ahead of myself here, but they are proposing to install some guardrail, some fencing, some gates, and guardhouse. 2 guardhouses actually. And I know that this is a really big site, so it's probably a little difficult to see all the things on the diagram here on your screen, but I tried to color code it so you could see it easily. They will have 2 guard stations on the entrances on the east side of the building. You can see that in blue on your screen. There's going to be some barrier gates, that'll go up as they get allowed in and out of that premise. And there will be some guardrail to prevent people from going around those gates. And then there will be a short line of fencing actually along Prosperi Drive where there's really not a big landscape buffer yard there. I believe that's because it would be relatively easy to hop the curb and get right back onto the street. And they've actually chosen a really nice ornamental fence, which I've got a picture for later on in the slideshow here. I want to go back just a step here and show you the zoning of the area. This is a manufacturing zoning district. It is part of the Tinley Park Corporate Center planned unit development. As you may be familiar, it is the same planned unit development as that 300,000 square foot building we saw 2 months ago now, and they will be breaking ground hopefully in the next couple weeks. But they will be neighbors, and they will be sharing some access with this particular site as well. Again, you can see the other properties around it, the amphitheater to the south with with ORI zoning, and we've got Carmex, which is B5, and then the nearest residential is north of the highway, and that I believe is single-family attached townhomes, if I'm correct. Going back to this diagram here, that just shows you all of the different improvements. The traffic will flow basically entering from the east side of the site, and I believe leaving also through that same side. I believe that the gates on the west side of the building would just be used for emergencies, and everything will be in and out past the security houses. I did want to bring up one point. In your staff report, you saw this diagram talking about the the enlargement of this particular curb. This is located at the point where Prosperi Drive meets the southeast corner of the site, and they're proposing to widen this. And their actual proposal is larger than this. This was proposal A, which was not meant for double truck traffic, so I want to show you what they'd actually like to go with. This one, where it's about 60 feet wide, would allow 2 trucks simultaneously to be making the maneuver. And the petitioner can talk a little bit more about this during their presentation, but they have some needs for increased truck traffic. And like I said, this site will be sharing this particular access point with the adjacent 300,000 square foot building that'll be going in. And that'll be their access off Prosperi Drive. And they also have their employees here too. So the employee parking is just north of this. You can see those parking spaces starting up there. So this particular intersection is going to have a lot of traffic going on, and so they'd like to expand it so they can get the most movement and circulation through that as possible. So disregard my 38-foot drawing here, and instead you can see this allows the 2 trucks.
What is it now?
You know,
I measured it today. It's
Okay.
28 feet from
28.
edge of asphalt to edge of asphalt. It's 31 from back of curb to back of curb.
okay.
So, and also though, there's, from back of curb, there's 3 feet, there's a water main, with the 4 feet from the back of curb directly west is the fire hydrant. So there'll be, in one of their plans, peak construction shows on C1.1, it just says, it's denoted that there'd be a hydrant relocation, if you can read the small print. There's also a light fixture there that would have to be relocated too. So, and the grade there, as you see in the plan, is graded up. It's like bermed up, so there'd have to be some modification to the berm too. But there's, I'd like to hear more details about how they intend to deal with the relocation of the water main and said utilities if they do widen the, do get approval to widen the entrance drive to 60 feet now.
Excellent. We have more with the staff report, or?
I think I might have
Because I think
a couple more things.
Commissioner Gray needs you to move over because he's doing his homework there for his
Yeah. Thank you.
staff report there.
Thank
So,
you for
excellent.
that. And that's a little surprising because we did run both of those by engineering a few weeks ago, I think, and I don't recall hearing that as a concern. So that's a very large endeavor there, relatively speaking, just to widen the street. So I'm sure the petitioner can talk more about that as well, too. I just want to show a couple more pictures here. This is a nice plan that the petitioner provided actually today for the slideshow. They just laid their plans over an aerial just so you can kind of see where everything's going here. Again, you can see the different gates and the security guard houses that are proposed. And I want to talk about the fence a little bit. We have 3 different things going on here. The site plan approval for the different security modifications, the minor deviation to have some of those site changes such as the guardhouses. And as in your packet, you probably saw where I put that that's something that the Plan Commission has the authority to approve. And then the last thing is an exception, because this is a PUD, we don't do variances, we do exceptions. So this would be an exception to have essentially a front yard fence. And this fence, I believe, is set back about 4 feet from the south property line. It is an open style decorative fence. There won't be any electric or barbed wire type things on it. It's not going to be an intense security fence. It's actually a pretty aesthetically pleasing security fence, all things considered. I don't even think the tops of it are pokey. So that is the proposed fence, and it would be along that green line, basically just where there's a lack of a landscaped buffer yard to sort of prevent some of those vehicles from going right over the curbs there. And that's all I have in my report, and I'm sure the petitioner would love to answer some of your questions, and I can definitely answer the questions that you have as well.
Can we start down on this end with Commissioner Engel? Do you have any questions?
I have no questions.
Okay.
No questions from me.
Down this end?
Sure, Mr. Musho.
Well, for on the staff report.
Oh, fair enough.
Because we'll let them give their presentation.
Fair enough. No questions.
Okay, all right. All right, great. Welcome, and again, thank you for your patience. Look forward to hearing your presentation.
Okay, so in answer to your question, my understanding is the water main that's feeding that hydrant is coming directly from the east of that particular hydrant. So all it would require is to extend the feed to that hydrant to the west and relocate the hydrant farther west on the berm. So that's how we propose to handle the relocation of the hydrant. basically, we would be doing the same thing with the light pole as well. So just moving everything, appropriately behind the curb on the west side, just moving everything farther west, basically.
Do you have like plans that like verify as built for the feed coming in from the east?
I
for the
believe
hydrant?
it's on the plan that we submitted, I believe.
I just see dimensions, I don't.
This? Oh,
She can blow that up for you.
is
No,
it
I don't.
This one, or is it?
No, there was actually a set of civil plans that was submitted.
It'll be in your
with the
packet if
permit.
you turn on your screen. Then I can pull it up.
I have my packet. The civil plan I have is C11, but it does not show. It does not show utilities on sheet C11. Apologies.
So I don't have that with me, but I'm sure I can provide that for you.
So as we go through these here, just a point of clarification for Paula or from Paula. This is an excellent point being brought up here. Fair to say that any site plan approval is going to be subject to engineering. So this is an excellent point.
He has this expertise, and it's fine to note it, but the way our process works, you all look at the site plan from zoning perspectives, and then once it goes into the building department review, it then gets circulated through engineering, public works, and everybody.
Okay.
So.
Thank you, Stephanie. It's, she shows on the computer, you can see where it's marked out, you can't see it on the small copy, so, thank you.
Excellent. Any questions down here?
Yeah, just a couple questions for you. Do you guys have security cameras?
We do.
Where are they at?
On the building themselves.
Okay.
And of course, closer to the top, so they can shoot over the tops of the trailers. But the issue is particularly when we get in the busy season, they're a 180 panoramic type camera with like 4 different cameras within them. If you get multiple trailers in a spot, you're lined up down their lane, your range of visibility gets quite limited.
Okay. Just a question for aesthetics. The fence. I think it's a great fence. But just to stay consistent, would you be open to potentially adding that fence to go from point A where the guardhouse is? If we can go, Stephanie, can you go to this one here?
Oh,
I realize it's a pond in front, but because this is a front, would it be possible that we could extend that fence all the way to the other, from point A to point B, the entire length, including behind the pond? For aesthetic purposes, because I think if you just end the fence there, it looks kind of funny.
See, we had thought we're trying to keep the openness and the aesthetics of seeing the whole pond. The fence is.
Yeah, from the truck perspective, sure, but from the perspective of the outside looking in, it'd be nice to look over the pond and see the fence flow continuously, in my opinion.
I would not be opposed to that. I will say that we're a tenant leasing the property, and we're already expending a significant dollar amount in conjunction with our landlord to do all of these tenant improvements. I guess that would have to go for further discussion, with our landlord and internally with the company.
Yeah, I guess my comment to that would be, we chose a more decorative fence, which obviously would be more expensive, based on the linear footage that we were planning on covering. So to extend it beyond the pond, as you can see, would basically almost double the amount of fencing. Not quite double,
I just
but it's a
might
pretty
add, too.
significant amount of
Yeah,
fencing.
another third of the
If I
fence.
could add to, we've been into pretty sensitive negotiations with M-Block and Hillwood, and I know you're not privy to that. M-Block is a very valued client to the village, and There was some tense negotiations there for a while because we wanted to make sure that we retained M-Block in the village, and so that was part of these negotiations. And they agreed with the more decorative fence at a significant increase in cost. So, you know, they are, just as they mentioned, they are a tenant. Those negotiations have been concluded, and they have signed a lease. So,
We've renewed now for the third time.
yeah, so we're very happy about that. And with that renewal, that allowed Hillwood to proceed with the 300,000 square foot spec building, which is to the east of there.
If I may just add too, some of the things that the commission may not know, we are doing a significant number of improvements on the inside as well. So it's not just some guard checks and a fence. We're doing a lot of interior work. With a building this size, we're having to put in an additional lunchroom, break room on the west side of the property. As you could imagine, individuals working on the west side of the building, when they get their break, our current break room is located on the southeast corner of the property.
By the time they walk down
Pretty
there.
much.
It's a
And
million
so we're
square
trying to be
feet.
fair. So it's one of those where we do have some significant interior dollars costs being spent as well.
What kind of landscaping is around the pond? When you put the fence up, is there additional landscaping, or are you just going to leave it as is, just put the fence up?
They already fulfilled those requirements when they built the first time.
And that's one of the challenges, is that there's, you know, beautiful layout of trees around Prosperity Drive, kind of in the parkway, if you will, but there really isn't, you can still drive through them as you would, you know, with the typical maple tree that's out there. They're, you know, they've been growing for, I think, 10 years now, but you can still drive right through them. So it doesn't act as a security barrier other than a aesthetically pleasing, nice drive.
So to that end, if I understand the primary driver for why you're looking to do this, it's security.
Absolutely.
Okay, and even more to the point, it's not security from foot traffic, it's from vehicular traffic.
Correct.
If it's fair to say, if you were truly concerned about foot traffic, you would have proposed going all the way to the end.
Correct.
Right?
And it
So-
probably wouldn't be an open style fence.
Exactly. Or it might have had, you know, sharper points on the top, and, you know, some concertina wire across the top. So, and with respect to cameras, I actually I appreciate Commissioner Croner's question. It's one that usually comes up here, and based on that, you already have cameras. Fair to say you're likely to. These are going to be manned guardhouses, right?
They will be manned during our operational
During
hours. yes.
operational hours, all right. You're likely to, you know, include security cameras in there, I would expect.
That's still under discussion.
Okay.
Challenges is, again, kind of like we discussed, the distance to run security cameras, Cat 5, you're kind of very limited distance from the building to where you can tie into a switch to another server. Is
Yep.
a little bit of challenge as well.
So when you're not manning a security guards, you're not doing your hours of operation, I take it the gates are going to be down on the
Correct.
floor?
Correct.
Okay.
Right, so it's not continuous operations, right? It's
No.
only a couple of shifts?
2 shifts.
All right. So I actually was going to have the same question as Commissioner Croner about the length of the fence, so we've covered that there. If anything, just simply for aesthetics, in the plan, it appeared to me that it was kind of an abrupt ending, full height of the fence. Potentially, I might suggest that the final panel or something, you know, kind of swoop down, you know, to kind of give it, you know, it is a good-looking fence. I mean, we can't complain about that. But to the end, we're to the extent we can ask for that last mile or last 4 feet, I guess it would be. I'd put that out there. I personally, I wouldn't condition anything on that. It's really just more of a suggestion. So any other questions from the commission with respect to this, or additional points that staff would like to make?
Sure. To your comment about the abrupt end, I think an interesting thing that could be done at the end of either side of the fence would be to have some sort of evergreen material, so it kind of would go into a tree rather than just stop. So at least you've got something aesthetic, and it'll be
Just like
green
a
all year
big ol'
round.
arborvitae or something up there or something.
I don't know about arborvitaes.
Spruce trees.
Yes.
Not Paula's favorite.
All right, I
Something
will stay
similar.
away from the landscaping.
Would that be okay with you guys? To cover the ends that way? Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Any additional comments from you guys?
We just appreciate the commission listening to our presentation.
Okay, good deal. So if there are no further questions from the commission, as I said earlier, we can entertain a motion in one meeting. It would be good for us to cover the standards for site plan approval here. Would you want to run us through those real quick?
Sure. The standards, and we've provided draft responses for them in the packet. I won't go over those, but if you want to hear the actual standards to consider, they are that the proposed use is a permitted use in the district in which the property is located, that the proposed arrangement of buildings, off-street parking, access, lighting, landscaping, and drainage is compatible with adjacent land uses, that the vehicular ingress and egress to and from the site and circulation within the site provides for safe, efficient, and convenient movement of traffic, not only within the site but on adjacent roadways as well, that the site plan provides for the safe movement of pedestrians within the site, that there is a sufficient mixture of grass, trees, and shrubs within the interior and perimeter, including the right-of-way of the site, so that the proposed development will be in harmony with adjacent land uses and will provide a pleasing appearance to the public. Any part of the site plan not used for building structures, parking, access ways shall be landscaped with a mixture of grass, trees, and shrubs. And finally, that all outdoor trash storage areas are adequately screened.
Thank you. And if there are no comments from the commission on that at this time, I would like to entertain a motion.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yes, please, relax. Do I have a motion from one of the commissioners?
Sure, I'll submit the motion. I'd like to make a motion to grant the petitioner Jeff Mushalevitz of Peak Construction Company on behalf of M Block and Sons, Inc., the following approvals. Number 1, site plan approval. Number 2, a minor deviation from the Tinley Park Corporate Center First Industrial Plan unit development. And number 3, a 46-foot exception from section V.B of the zoning ordinance to allow an ornamental fence at a 4-foot setback from the south property line where the required setback is 50 feet. These approvals will obviously allow for security improvements at 18801 Oak Park Avenue, including fencing, gates, security guard houses, and related site improvements in accordance with plans as noted within the list of submitted plans within the staff report, with the only condition being that you add the 2 spruce trees or whatever staff would like. No arborvitaes, no arborvitaes.
Arborvitae.
That's what I heard.
I withdraw that recommendation.
Don't you remember Cousin It from the Addams Family?
Okay.
I
We
think
do
we're
have a
done.
motion on the table.
One other thing really quick.
yes.
And it's subject to building permit review, obviously. For,
Excellent point.
the
Sure.
width of that curb cut, too. So
Yes.
I'd like to add that. in
No
the
problem there
motion.
to adding that on.
Okay, so Commissioner Croner has made a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Engel. May we have a roll call?
Gray,
Yay.
Croner,
Yes.
Engel,
Yay.
Manny,
Yes.
Shaw.
Yes, motion carries. All right, thank you very much, gentlemen, and good luck with that. This will also, oh no, I'm sorry, this does not have to go to the village board. It is approved, and you're all set, subject to building permits, et cetera.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you again for your
Thanks
time
for working with us.
and for signing that additional lease. Keep you around a little bit longer. Okay, with that concluding, we will have comments from the public, if there are any. Hearing none and seeing none, we will have, I'm
Do
vamping.
the good of the order?
We will do good of the order here, yep.
All right.
I gotta get
so-
quicker getting to page 1 of my agenda.
That's okay. We love your recommendation about 7 PM, so we're going to start that the next meeting. We couldn't do it tonight because we had already noticed for the public hearing. So we'll put in big bold letters to remind everybody that 7 PM at the next meeting.
Okay, so did not need to be formal about that. We're just gonna do it, right?
We have to notice it.
Yeah, right.
But,
I'm saying we don't have to have a motion and
No.
all that, so we're good.
Nope, we're good.
Anything else?
Yeah, I just wanted, I think you've all started a good protocol, talking about projects. So again, just wanted to bring you up to speed. I think I mentioned to you last time that we had a meeting with the residents on the residents. So we're going to do that again tomorrow. And I'll, hopefully we'll move closer to a plan that we can massage a little bit and bring back to you. We have a committee of the whole next Tuesday. For those of you not in government for a long time, the village board is divided up into committees that cover the various departments. We have 6 separate committees, and they are divided up so that 3 of them meet on the 2nd Tuesday of the month, and 3 of them meet on the 4th Tuesday of the month, the opposite Tuesdays from village board meetings. And in each of those committees, they have an assignment of 3 trustees. We have a committee for community development, and we're grouped with public safety and public works, and we meet on the 2nd Tuesday of the month. In addition to that, the board gets together as a whole, all of them, and it's sort of like their workshop meeting, and that is going to be done quarterly from going on. It used to be done kind of once a month. They've decided to do that quarterly, but we will have that on the 8th. So the committee of the whole, and then we'll also have a community development committee that evening. And on that agenda, the committee of the whole, we're going to be addressing chickens in the village. So if any of you are passionate about chickens, you're welcome to come to that meeting or turn it on for TV.
The raising and keeping of
Keeping.
chickens, not the
Yes.
eating of chickens.
Not the eating of
Correct.
chickens.
The eggs, right?
Yes, spent way too much time on poultry. That's under the committee of the whole. Under the planning or community development, we're looking at a couple text amendments. I think I mentioned this last time. One is outdoor display of sale of goods for sale, and the leasing of trucks in the MU1 district, which is primarily right around Devan Drive. We're also going to be looking at a waiver of the building code. This is a fairly minor issue, but all our sheds and utility sheds have to have cement foundations. We have an application for a greenhouse, and they want to have pea gravel as a foundation so that it's pervious. So I need to take that to a building committee. That's where it goes, and it stops there. They have the final approval on that. I'm also taking a request for a temporary planner in the Community Development Department through GovTemps, the company that I work for. That kind of covers us a little bit. Not only we need some assistance all the time, but you all know Stephanie is going to be married over Labor Day, and I'm hoping to get surgery somewhere after. We're waiting for her to get married first, and so we want to bring in some help to kind of take care of some of our longer range projects and just to keep things moving. B&B warehouse, I don't know if you've been following this at the village board, some concerns about odor in that area, like a garlic odor. So I just want to let you know we had done a test on that, and I've met with them, and they have installed some ozone machines, and those should have been completed by last Friday. So we should see an improvement of that, and I certainly welcome if any of y'all are craving pizza subliminally, it might be because of that. I'd like to know about it. If you
So,
saw something.
question on that point. I'm very well aware of the complaints in the situation, and that the village has commissioned studies. I'm wondering whether the ozone machines was that a compromise situation? Were they found to be in violation of
No.
something? This is just
No.
a negotiated, let's
They
address
are
this.
they're a really nice company, and the owners were actually sort of like us, I have a cat, and I'm probably the last one to know that it smells. So they really were not aware that there were complaints, and we received a few. And I did a study in the winter, and it did not provide any evidence of odor. I do think it might be impacted by seasonal environments. So rather than going through another testing, they were like, hey, we want to be a good neighbor. Let us see if we can't take care of that.
Yeah, and that being over on Duvan Drive, an industrial park, that it's good to keep businesses in there.
Yep.
Yeah, so we definitely, I'm in support of
Yeah,
it.
we haven't gotten complaints from any of their neighboring businesses, it's been some residents. The demolition of Rogers Hair Salon, that's got the asbestos was just removed, so we're hoping to see that demolished within the next couple weeks. Bang and Gavel, met with them, still waiting to get that site plan and landscape plan in. I did get an email here, I see, while I was sitting here, so that should be in either by tomorrow or the beginning of next week. Stephanie and I met with Trustee Glotz. And those of you that don't understand the assignment of trustees, Trustee Glotz is over community development. So we met with him today to talk about fences, one of our favorite subjects. So this is one of the text amendments that will be coming before you at some point. We kind of want to get the ZBA on board as well, because they hear these all the time. And so this would be something that our new planner might be able to help us with. So I didn't get a chance to talk to you today. Was there something else or anything else that you can think of? We don't have any ZBA projects
No new
coming up.
variances coming up. The next thing you'll probably see are text amendments. So I think
From the two that we worked on.
the outdoor display and the truck rental.
Okay.
Fences.
Okay, I just had one or two real quick housekeeping points here, just for the commission, to make sure we always have a quorum. We want to make sure when the requests go out, that we get responses back as fast as possible. To the extent anybody has a known absence coming up, as far out as possible, let's advise. And to that end, I myself, and I've mentioned this before, but I will not be in attendance at the next meeting. So we will need to have a second for that. Any other points from the commission? Okay, hearing none, and I did go a little bit out of order, but once again, I will say if there's public comment, we do not have any. So at that point, I would thank everyone for the time and entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
A second.
No, I'm
No,
sorry.
there you go.
All right. So I have a motion from Commissioner Gray, second. Second, Commissioner Manny. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries, and we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great.